but the Drowned Horse Chronicle is definitely up your alley. It's about a cursed Arizona town where your inner demons manifest as actual monsters. And the sheriff whose job it is to keep those monsters away from the people foolish enough to settle the area. And I didn't want to go with just your typical vampire, werewolf, zombies, even though you will find some of those in there. Instead, what I wanted to do was I wanted to do more of a cultural deep dive, because when we came west, we not only brought all our belongings, we brought all our fears, our legends, our mythologies with us.
Welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the author podcast. And what's better than one, Dave? Well, how about two? And that's what we're going to do. We're on the show. David Boop's on the show. We're going to be talking about his journey. This gentleman has written a lot. He's done a lot, and he's enjoying sipping his tea. And we're going to chat all things about David Boop and writing, authorship, and a few little fun stories along the way. Mr. David Boop, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. If anybody's interested with this gentleman beyond this episode, he's everywhere. You can go see him on numerous podcasts, interviewed about his background and his story. Been enjoying catching up. I know a few things about you already, Dave, and I'm glad to have you on the podcast. Thanks for making time.
I really appreciate it. I really do.
Excellent. For the audience, Dave, they don't know where you are in this world. Can you let everybody know where you are?
So I'm Denver-based currently. This is my home base, my creative collective. I built an office. It's got drop-in cubes for authors, drop-in art space for artists. And it's a chance to collaborate authors and artists together. At least for now, I'm planning on moving, hopefully by the end of the year, to Oregon. But I'll be building the same thing there. So, yeah. But yeah, I've been in Denver since '86 with a brief little sojourn over to Arizona. I'm originally from Connecticut, but I was raised mostly in Wisconsin. But I've been all over. Like I said, I lived in Arizona for a little bit. I lived in Tennessee for a little bit. So, yeah.
Good. Excellent. Let's talk a little about your writing background. You've done a lot of different things. As I go through your bio on your site and everything, you've been around. So can you give us kind of an overview of some of the things you've been doing, writing related?
Well, so the writing falls into a couple of different categories. Obviously there's short stories. That's what I'm most prolific in. I have over 100 short stories published. In various genres. I don't stick to one genre because I wasn't influenced by one genre growing up. Some people say that helps. Some people say that hurts. It's just, I get the ideas that I get and I got to write them. I also get invites to a lot of anthologies. So I like to submit stories that for themes that engage me, that get my attention, especially weird Western. I tend to do a lot of weird Western. As far as novels, my first novel came out in 2008, called She Murdered Me with Science. It's a sci-fi noir, written like an old pulp detective novel, but with all this weird science elements into it. My next novel, as it would be, was a media tie-in for a tabletop role-playing game called Rippers Resurrected. That's only available digitally, but I'm working on a deal to eventually get that in print. And then the most recent was from a couple of years ago, the Drowned Horse Chronicle, Volume 1. And that is a weird Western mosaic novel where I have taken a lot of my weird Western short stories, which were all interconnected by this town called Drowned Horse in Arizona. And I've started building books based on those stories. And so the first volume came out called The Forest Years. And the second book is in the works right now. I'm working on it. Hopefully going to have it done by the end of the year.
Nice. For someone who's not familiar with the term weird Western, can you elaborate, please?
Sure. Weird Western is anytime you cross a Western with another genre. Most popularly, it's crossed with like horror or fantasy.
Okay.
This is where we get the Wild Wild West TV series. We also get things like Briscoe County Jr. the more recent Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stephen King's The Dark Tower, things of that nature tend to be classified in this genre of weird Western, which of course is different than space Western, which is where you take a Western and take it off of the planet Earth and you put it somewhere else, but it's still got the Western tropes.
Okay.
Edited 3 volumes of weird Western anthologies, 3 volumes of space Western. So I can tell you everything that's different about the two of them. So,
okay. For the authors listening, they're here to learn from a fellow author. Again, you have so much to teach and so much to share. Short stories for a new author, is that a good starting point for someone to kind of get their feet underneath them and figure out their voice as an author?
yeah, I highly recommend it. And now there's a lot of camps where this is concerned because there are people who say they can't write short fiction at all. They can only write novel length. And I get that. I understand what they mean by that. But there's if you can write a short story, you can write a novel. It's sort of like if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, right? It's sort of that philosophy that when you're learning to write, to be able to tell a story in a short vignette, as it were, allows people to see how you craft, what help you develop your voice, plotting, grammar, punctuation in a smaller environment, as opposed to like trying to get somebody to read 3 chapters of your novel or something of that nature, right? So for me, I tried writing novels at first and I wasn't particularly good at it. But when I got into short fiction, I immediately started getting I was winning awards in writing contests. I was getting short stories published, semi-pro, not great price, like $10 a story or something like that. But I worked my way up until I reached pro level publications, which can, depending on your word count, can pay $500, $800 a story. But the most important thing for the new writers is it gives people a chance to see how you tell a story, how you craft a story, right? I almost never, like I teach and tutor on the side, and I almost never read somebody's novel. I want to read their short fiction first to see if they can tell a story, right? If you go to college, you're not doing novel work at first. You're doing short fiction work, right? Because it allows the group that's critiquing you a chance to see whether or not you can stick a landing, whether or not you can develop character, whether or not you can build setting, all that stuff in a finer environment. And a lot of that translates then over to novel because you still have to have kind of 3 acts in a short story, even if act 1 and act 3 may be implied, sort of thing, right? But once you start developing your ability to do the 3-act structure within short fiction, then that starts translating to bigger and bigger things, right? And you don't have to go right from short fiction to novel. We have these other things like novelette and novella, which are longer short stories, which again allows you to develop that voice, that plotting, and so forth easier. And also the other aspect of it is marketing, right?
Right.
If you're trying to get your name out there, right? I didn't just set out to do 100 short stories, right? I did that because I had a novel I needed to sell, and I needed to show publishers that I can write and sell. I'm well enough. I'm a good enough writer that I can tell a story that somebody wants to pay me money for, right? But number 2, it allows you to see that, show them that you can be edited. And that's the key thing. There's a lot of new writers out there who think they're better than editing, right?
Yeah.
You didn't see my vision, right? And unfortunately, there's some big name New York Times authors who kind of feel the same way, right? but you think you would lose that over time. But the idea that your poop don't stink, right?
Right.
I run into that a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I hear the stories, and we share stories. You potential writers out there, we hear when you have written back an editor who rejected a story and with well, you don't get my vision. Oh, your mag is crap anyway. What do you know? And stuff like that, right? Like we know, and we don't. We keep a list. We have meetings. We have meetings.
Yeah. You're
Talk
like
about you guys.
you're like
You don't
Santa. You
know.
have a list. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why I always propose starting with short fiction. I mean, even
Yeah,
the 6-word story has value. All right.
really.
That's when I'm teaching tutoring, I start with a 6-word story and
Six
build
word
up from
story.
there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. The famous 6-word story, Hemingway, I think it was, crafted a 6-word story at a party. Never heard of this?
No, come on.
So I think it was Hemingway. I could be wrong. I should know that at the tip of
Yeah.
my brain, but I don't. So he was at a party and somebody said, "You're such a great writer. I bet you can't write a story in 6 words." And he thought about it for a moment. And he goes, "For sale, baby shoes, never worn."
Oh, okay. Now I remember this now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there
Yeah.
are contests
That's
every
good.
year. Yeah, there are contests every year for crafting 6-word stories.
Wow.
Um, and that's where I stick because I mean, if they can't, if you can't, if you don't have the creativity to come up with a 6-word story, well, then we have a lot of work to do, right, with you,
Yeah.
as a potential writer. Um, but it's also hella fun, right?
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of hella fun forms like that. The drabble, the exactly 100-word story,
Mm.
flash fiction, anything under 1,000 words, right? Every one of those allows me to develop somebody's voice. And these are all things I've done, right? These are all things that I have done. I have every length of story published because I wanted to experiment. I
Yeah.
wanted to try these things. I wanted to, and then once you got them, well, they're not making daddy money if they're sitting on your computer. Get
Yeah.
out in the world, go bring daddy some money,
Yeah.
right? So, I sell flash fiction regularly. I don't sell many 6-word or drabbles, but flash fiction is a favorite of mine.
Yeah. So would writing to a word count like that be somewhat on the same level or same plane as a journalist writing to a time constraint and
Oh,
they have to be done on this time? Is it kind of the same idea that you have this
very
thing?
much so.
Yeah.
So in journalism, it's done by inches, right? Or
Oh,
columns or
yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like you're given a certain amount of space,
Yeah.
right? And you got to make it fit in that space. So it's very similar to a word count because but the and they're kind of connected in that it all has to do with budget,
Right.
right? So in a newspaper, there's a budget for how many columns and so forth, because there also has to be a certain number of ads
Yeah.
and so forth. So, the weight of the story depends on how many columns you're going to get, right? Or how many inches you're going to get. With a magazine or an anthology, they have a budget for what they can pay authors. And anytime authors go over that word count, that's cutting into the budget.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if authors turn in shorter stories than the word count, that gives you a little extra to play with maybe somebody else's story, right? It just depends. I always appreciate when I send out invites for an anthology. If somebody turns me in a shorter story, because guaranteed somebody is going to turn in a longer one,
Right.
right? And then there's a balancing act that goes with that. So yeah,
So yeah,
very
and anthologies would be another great place to start as a new author, new writer, just getting your name out there. being part of a project. That's another good starting point.
Well, and anthologies also have the benefit, physical printed media, which, fewer and fewer of them every day. But magazines and anthologies allow you to have a physical item that you can then turn around and sell. And I sell at a lot of conventions. I just came back from Dragon Con a couple of weeks ago, and I did signings there. I've got a signing and a reading tomorrow at a local book and comic book store here, actually just right across the street from my office. And the idea is that when you have physical copies, even if you get paid less than pro rate, you have physical copies, you're getting those usually at a wholesale price that you can turn around and sell them at retail, kind of make up for that lack of pay forward. Now, not a lot of authors, or I should say there are authors who don't agree with this philosophy. They feel like it's a bookseller's job to sell books. Their job is to write. And anytime that they're not in front of a computer writing, it's costing them money.
Right.
But you also get to, as you mentioned, talking to the readers, you get to connect with your readership on a one-on-one basis when you do that. And every time I pitch one of my books and somebody says, I like that, and they spend actual money on it, I feel like they're going to read it and hopefully enjoy it. Right. And that unspoken agreement between author and reader is essential sometimes, especially with all the noise on the internet. If you're self-published or indie published, how do people find you? Right. In that sea of poorly written dreck that's out there. Right. So,
you get a lot of hand holding through the process of writing, publishing, editing, all that side. But when you get to promoting, that's where I find with a lot of the guests on my show, that's where they struggle the most as an author, is getting out of a solitude creative space into a public forum and talking about what they do. There's not a lot of support for authors in that part of the journey. And some of them really struggle just to do this, what we're doing right now.
Yeah. There is support out there. There's a lot of organizations that help with that. The event we're doing tomorrow is for the Horror Writers of America, Colorado branch. We are doing an event, and it's part book sale, part live reading. We're also doing some spooky crafts and stuff because Halloween's around the corner. So the idea that getting together with organizations that help writers overcome some of those challenges, right? I mean, everything that I have, call it succeeded in, all the success that I've had, all can be traced back to the first conventions I attended, where I focused on not the celebrities, not the whatever else was going on, not the fan worship stuff, but actually attending the panels and meeting other authors and listening to their stories, just like this, about, how they overcame certain obstacles, and learning how to promote, learning how to do a reading or put together an anthology or whatever, right? It's all of that comes back from going to conventions. And that's where I met my tribes. That's where I met my mentors, right? That's where I met my handful of fans, right? Like the people who actually follow me and pick up everything that I put out, right? Those few fans out there were all met at conventions, right? They were all met at social events. Can you do it without doing that? Absolutely. There's plenty of examples of people never attending a convention and having success, right? I always say that getting published and what goes into it is a lot like that line from Dances with Wolves. There's as many ways to be published as there are stars in the sky. Tonka,
Yeah.
right? So yeah. So yeah.
It's good.
You just got to find your own path, what works for you.
Yeah.
This is what worked for me. And I have helped a lot of people develop their own way of getting published and so forth. And nobody's going to do it exactly like me, and I'm never going to do it exactly like them.
Yeah. So, okay, so David, a new reader walks into a bookstore and there's a David Boop section. There should be, with the amount of stuff you've done. And they're standing there looking at this wall of books going, where do I even start with this author? Like, where's a good starting point? Where would you tell a new reader walking into your world as a good starting point to what you do?
Well, so because I'm published in many different genres,
Yeah.
my first question when I meet a reader, a potential reader, is, what do you like to read?
Mhm.
Like, for example,
Yeah.
what do you like to read?
I like fantastical stories that make you kind of go, could that happen? Yeah, I like stuff like that. I like
Okay.
historical
Well-
fiction. I like anything like that. Yeah.
Well, that fits for both of my novels, but the more recent one, which is usually always the one you're pushing the most, is the most recent one. But the Drowned Horse Chronicle is definitely up your alley. It's about a cursed Arizona town where your inner demons manifest as actual monsters. And the sheriff whose job it is to keep those monsters away from the people foolish enough to settle the area. And I didn't want to go with just your typical vampire, werewolf, zombies, even though you will find some of those in there. Instead, what I wanted to do was I wanted to do more of a cultural deep dive, because when we came west, we not only brought all our belongings, we brought all our fears, our legends, our mythologies with us. And if you're in a cabin in the middle of the woods and it's the middle of the night and you hear growling outside, the monster you imagine is going to be very different depending on where your people came from. Ireland, South America, Asia, Russia, Africa, all of those places, we all have our own personal boogeyman. So for me, my sheriff not only has to figure out how to stop the monster, but often who brought it there and why.
That's an interesting premise. Okay. I'm trying to think of what mine would be. As I'm listening to you do that, I'm like, oh, I'm like looking over my shoulder now, like, oh no. Yeah.
So I learned pitching from Melinda Snodgrass, who is basically right hand of God. I mean, George R.R. Martin. And she has had to pitch, a lot of stuff, including to Hollywood and so forth. And for her, she taught me the simplest way to pitch is to introduce the character, express their inner struggle and outer struggle, and then possible resolution to both of them, right? What's needed, right? So, when we talk about pitching a novel, we have to connect with the characters or the setting or the plot, depending on whether or not your book is a character-driven, a setting-driven, or a plot-driven narrative. And so Drowned Horse is a setting mostly. So it's mostly about the setting. But I also put in there the sheriff because people want to connect with somebody. And the idea that the sheriff has to fight all sorts of monsters and aliens and everything like that becomes a connecting point with readers. So they're fascinated by the plot. They're also fascinated by the fact that this man is not only struggling to stop monsters, but also occasionally having to find out which one of the people in the town summoned it, right? So there's some depth there. And that's what I did when I built the Drowned Horse Chronicle. It's a mosaic, so every chapter stands on its own. You have everything you need in every chapter to go forward. And sometimes there's characters that don't make it in the chapter. There's definitely characters that don't make it to the end of the book. Because I don't want people to fall into a formulaic coma when reading. It's like, oh, I know what's going to happen next.
Right. Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I have horror, I have science fiction in there. I have fantasy, and I even have a mystery. full on noir, because I write noir too, called The Widow Wore Spurs. And yeah, so it's a fun book. So if you're looking for something that I don't have a lot of time to read, well, guess what? My book's perfect. You can read a chapter while you're on the john. Your legs won't even fall asleep, and you can. I don't know how many times I've crawled out of a bathroom with a really good book. So
There you
yeah,
go. It's good. That's a very interesting perspective. Yeah, I'm with you. Put the phone down, right? Take a book. There we go. I like it. Um, my podcast is Living the Next Chapter. So one of my favorite questions for my guests is like, how are you living your next chapter as an author, as a writer? What's exciting for you? What are you looking at down the road as you continue your journey as a writer?
So I've had a couple of really big things happen. Most recently, oh, and I'm neglect in doing this. Here's the Drowned Horse Chronicle out from Wolfpack.
Nice.
I've been talking about it. Might as well show the cover.
Yes.
Right. So the most recent thing that I had come out is Permutations, a well-world mosaic novel. Again, it's a mosaic, but it's more like an anthology. But all the stories are interconnected. This is based on the late Jack L. Chalker's Midnight at the Well of Souls series, and it's the first authorized work that has come out in his world. And I pulled together a bunch of his friends, authors who were inspired by him, and his family. His daughter actually co-wrote one of the stories in here with Jennifer Brozek. So this was a huge thing to work on, because Jack was a very big inspiration to me as a reader, much younger man reader. But then as a writer, I'm always looking at, who are the people that influenced me and so forth. And Jack Chalker was a big one for that. This led to my latest announcement, is that I will be doing an anthology, not a mosaic this time, but an anthology of stories set in Larry Niven's Gil the Arm Hamilton universe, what is also known as Gnome Space. But Gil is a kind of a spy, secret agent, enforcer for the ARM organization. And he has a psychic arm, which he can do just about anything with. He can pick up stuff. He can reach through a wall and choke somebody on the other side if he has to. And I'm bringing in a bunch of people, including Larry himself and his co-writer, Stephen Barnes, are going to be writing a new Gil story for the anthology. That's a big project that just got announced at Dragon Con. So that's my next big anthology. As far as writing goes, I'm working on several projects. Drowned Horse Chronicle Volume 2. I'm also co-writing a urban dark fantasy with one of my cousins. I am writing a series of thrillers set in the 80s with a former FBI agent called the Crime Pays series. And that's the latest one, just came out. Those are appearing in Thrill Ride magazine. I'm also doing an amateur sleuth mystery set around the world of beach volleyball and the Olympics with a former beach volleyball player. And Cthulhu stories. I'm doing Cthulhu stories with one of my students, former students, who's now, we've sold 3 stories now, Cthulhian stories. So, yeah, that's their focus, is they love Cthulhu. And I get invites to Cthulhu stuff all the time, and I've never written it. And so we're working on these together. And so we just sold another one of those just a couple of weeks ago.
So not much going on then, is what I'm hearing from you.
Not a lot. No, not a lot.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
yeah. And there's also other projects, I also do film and games and, comics. I got a comic coming out with Kevin J. Anderson. That's giant mechs used as anger management therapy. So, there's stuff.
I would love to see your calendar. That would be fun to read. Like, how do you
on.
have time for all this? Well, I don't even understand. You have
Hold
more
on.
days than we have?
It's a little thin right now because I'm swapping some stuff out, but this is my busy board.
Oh my gosh.
And these are projects that I'm either working on or could be working on, but some of them have fallen off, and I need to update it here real soon. But yes, that is my calendar as it is. If I ever can't write, like I hit a stopping point on something, I can look at the busy board and figure out what I got to work on next. Yeah.
So you're not working on one project at a time?
Generally not. No.
No.
I have severe ADHD and some sleep issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm never working on just one thing. Oh yeah, I turned in a Shadowrun novel. That's right.
Yeah.
I just turned in that to set in Seattle. So yeah.
I don't even know. Like, generally when I ask that question of authors, they're like, yeah, thinking about writing something in the future. That's about
Oh, I
what I
don't have
usually get.
time.
No, you.
I don't have time. I mean, bills got to get paid.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
great. It's amazing.
Yeah, starvation is a huge motivator for writing.
It keeps your feet to go for the fire. I like that.
Right.
Who else do you have time to read other people's works? Like, is there somebody you admire as a fellow author?
Oh yeah. So I do mostly audio these days because if you saw my my to be read pile, it is mostly research books for the Drowned Horse. It's a huge stack. I have close to 200 research books for doing the Drowned Horse series. I just finished a audiobook that I enjoyed the other day. I was on a panel with the guy, and he had a really good pitch about his book, and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to read that. So I went home and I downloaded it. Fate and Flux, the first book of the Watchers of Astaria by Patrick Dugan. It's a steampunk fantasy novel, which I enjoyed. It was a fun, quick read. Didn't take long, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one. As far as who I read on a regular basis, I read a lot of Alan Dean Foster, who is one of my mentors. We actually share an agent. Lawrence Watt Evans, his various series, I like his. Of course, Kevin J. Anderson, another mentor, and Mike Stackpole. You notice a lot of these guys wrote Star Wars books. You can kind of tell what influenced me at a young age. Carol Berg is another excellent author, does amazing fantasy work amongst other things. But, when I'm doing anthologies, a lot of my reading, I read a lot of short stories, not only for my students, but also for these anthologies. So I invite often authors who I love their books or whatever, because I want to be the first person to read a new work of theirs, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to read that short story and I get downright giddy, right? It's like Alan sends me a story and I'm like, oh,
yes,
right. Or Kevin or any of the, like, anytime I get one, like I got, for the permutations, I got SP Sumtow and Catherine Asaro, and I was so excited to get those. And this one I'm doing for Larry, I'll get to see a Larry Niven and Steve Barnes story before almost anybody else. I'm sure they got first readers and things like that. But for me, that's my thrill is, and then when I get to discover an author, holy crap. Like, when somebody that I didn't know how good they could write puts in something that just knocks it out of the park. Cliff Winnick is a prime example. I've had him in 2 of my anthologies, and I'll probably have him in more in the future because he is consistently putting in exceptional work. Todd Galleglass gave me an epic ballad, right, for my space western. He did the entire thing in like iambic pentameter or something like that. I don't know. I don't know poetry, but he gave me a story that was actually a ballad, and it just blew my mind.
Wow.
Right. When people give me something that I'm not expecting, that's the thrill that I get as being an anthologist, and why I keep doing it, even though the pay is crap. It doesn't get me the accolades that writing a best-selling novel will do. But as a reader myself, every time these stories come in, I get to go, wait till somebody reads this. This is good, right? And it's a different type of catharsis that's different from when I write something that's really good and I can't wait for people to read, right? It's different. It's like somebody gave me their words. They've honored me with their words. And now I get to share that with all of you.
Yeah.
And that's as great as inventing or being a chef or anything of that nature, is sharing these discoveries with people and then having that feedback come back. That was one of the best short stories I've ever read.
Yeah.
Right. I love that.
It's good. You did mention a couple times about tutoring and helping other authors. Is that still something you're open to if an author's listening?
Oh yeah.
I'd love to work with David.
I don't take a lot of students. I'm not like, I'm not like Varsity Tutors or tutors.com or anything like that. It's more on a one-on-one basis. I meet people and sometimes they need some, career coaching, or they're struggling with something to deal with their writing and they need some help. And that's why I don't like really advertise it much. I talk about it on panels and podcasts and things like that. But the truth of the matter is I couldn't have a full slate. Like I couldn't do it full time because it would cut into the other things I'm doing. And those things are just as important. So like right now I have like 4 students, right? And I will entertain more at any given point. But I have to be careful because I've got a move coming up and I've got projects due and so forth. In fact, when I get off of here, I got to write a short story for a guy I promised at Dragon Con I'd have to him before October 1st. And time's
ticking.
So that's what I'll be doing this afternoon. But
do you have any resources for authors if you don't have time in your calendar to sit down? Do you have any kind of things that authors can tap into to kind of help them self?
Well, I mentioned earlier the associations, right? And even if you're not published, you can join these associations as a like associate member, not a full member, and start tapping into their resources. Horror Writers of America is one that I'm in. Thriller Writers is another one. Mystery Writers is another one. I'm also in one for people who do tie-in work, the International Association of Media Tie-in Writers. That's a mouthful, and so forth. But within your own communities, like Denver has Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers, and we also have down in Colorado Springs, the Pikes Peak Writers, and they both run. I don't say conventions. It's what's the term? But it's like a workshop sort of thing. Every year where they bring in people and there's panels and so forth, but it also can help lead you to writers groups and things of that nature. So that's a good resource. Be careful with a lot of online only organizations, because if you can't have a physical one-on-one connection with people, right? They say that the people most likely to steal your work is people right? It's not sending a manuscript to be in a slush pile at a big publisher, right? They have enough. That slush pile is so huge, they don't need to steal your work, right? They either like it or they don't. It's the people that you only know tangentially, like online writers groups and things like that.
Yeah.
It is best to know who these people are in a more personal way.
Makes
Everybody
sense.
should be invested. Anytime you're in a writers group, everybody should be invested in everybody else's success.
Yeah.
It's an overused cliche, but a rising tide raises all boats, right? And when I was in writers groups, as I had success, I tried to get other people in my group success as well. And it didn't really happen with my first group. My second group, everybody in that group has gone on to publish novels and so forth, win awards and things like that, because we were all invested in everybody else's success. And that's an important thing with any organization that you get involved with, whether it's your neighborhood writers group or something like SIFWA or whatever, right? The Science Fiction Writers Association, right? You want to make sure that everybody is focused on your success as well as you being focused on theirs. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we talk, right? Like if there's a trouble person in a writer's group, that's going to get out, right? And then there's organizations like Predators and Editors or File 770 or others where bad behavior is put out there, right? And so try to, what is it that Will Wheaton says is don't be a dick, right? Like, that's so true, because as many people that are in publishing these days, and there are a lot, I used to know all the players and I don't anymore, right? Because there's just too many of them. Once self-publishing and indie publishing blew up, it was impossible for me to keep up. Plus, also, like I might have mentioned, I have a few things going on. So I don't keep up with people like I used to. But if someone's being a jerk, somebody has done something that's got them kicked from a convention, or people are not taking their work anymore, publishers or whatever, we hear about that and we know. So the best thing is keep your nose clean. Try to stay as apolitical, keep the humor to clean as much as possible. Mistake I've made many times in the past, because I did stand-up comedy in the 80s and it's not the 80s anymore. So a lot of those jokes don't fly anymore. Right. So, yeah.
It's cool. This is great, David. Where do we want to send our readers and our author friends listening to the show? Where's the best place to connect with you?
So David Boop is not a very common name. I think there's only 5 or 6 of us in the country, and I think the rest are doctors or something. But if you put author David Boop, I'm easy to find. I'm on all the social medias. But of course, the easiest is davidboop.com. I'm currently updating my website right now, adding new features. There'll be interactive, there'll be a newsletter eventually, and so forth. Again, I have to fit it in with all the other stuff. But I just recently did an update. So a lot of the things like the books and so forth are up to date. So yeah, that's really kind of one of the first places. Facebook, I'm on a lot. Instagram, Blue Sky. I do still have a presence on X. I have the website. I have a TikTok channel, though I haven't been TikToking nearly as much as I should. I just did a Kickstarter for a Green Hornet anthology I edited earlier this year. So I was really socialing then, and a YouTube channel for my company, Longshot Productions. So yeah, there's stuff out there. You can find me.
Good. Awesome. David, thank you so much for making time to do this.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Yeah. You're fascinating.
And Strange Brew 2. Can't wait for it.
Come on. Right?
Yeah. No, come on. Take off, eh?
There you go. hoser.
You probably get sick of that. But
Well,
for me,
yeah.
as a child of the 80s, I love that crap.
Coming back?
Yeah, no, I can't wait for see what they're going to do with it. So.
There you go. Excellent. It's nice to hear Canada filters its way down to our friends in the US. I love that.
Oh, yeah, mostly because we all want to live there now. So
well, yeah, we'll keep the doors open, the lights on for you guys anytime you want.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, David. Thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.
Excellent, everyone. All information, as always, in the show notes. You know how we do this, and I'm asking you when, not if, when you buy David's books, to leave a great review. David, love to hear your thoughts, and tell somebody as well. You heard some great suggestions. You're like, oh, I know somebody's going to love David's writings. Share the episode, share his website, let somebody know. Use your words and let people know about David. David, again, thank you so much. Hey, thank you so much again for pressing play. As you've heard, great guests on the show. And one thing you didn't hear in this conversation is what? What did you not hear? Think about it for a second. That's right. Not a single solitary commercial for a mattress or a supplement or a whatever you call it. No. Why? Because we don't want to break up the conversation with commercials. So the fact that you're still here means that you are a fan of the show, I'm assuming. So if you want to help to keep the podcast going and to make me feel really happy, all I really care about is coffee, okay? I just got to be honest. I love coffee. I'm drinking one right now. It's starting to get cold. I need to warm it up. Helping us with our Buy Me a Coffee link over at livingthenextchapter.com and also in the show notes helps kind of keep the lights on around here. Remember, I'm doing this for free. I'm paying for everything. So I would love to have a little coffee donation, even $5 kind of fills up my cup. And I would love to enjoy a coffee from you. So if you're interested, again, thank you for listening. But you can use our Buy Me a Coffee link and fill up the cup. Thanks for being here.